Welcome to Spectacle on Television Nigeria. I am your host, Daniel Atai. President Buhari appoints new acting chairman of EFCC, that is Economic and Financial Crime Commission. And in another development, KEYAMO and the National Assembly still tussles over who should implement the 774,000 jobs across the country. Welcome to Spectacle. I am Daniel Atai. We take a short break, and when we return, we give you the body of the stories and our guest analyst in the studio, who is also a constitutional lawyer, will do justice to them. Please stay tuned. Welcome back. President Muhammadu Buhari, according to the Nigerian news tabloid, has appointed the Federal Capital Territories Police Commissioner, Bala CIROMA, as the new acting chairman of the EFCC. CIROMA is to replace the embattled former EFCC boss, Ibrahim MAGU, who has been under investigation of corruption by the Department of the State Security Services, DSS. The 7-man presidential panel consisting of a senior advocate of Nigeria and former Attorney General and Minister of Justice Kanu Agabe, representing MAGU, has concluded its sitting in Abuja. MAGU is said to have been evicted from his official residence in Maitama, and even his residence at Karu area of Abuja was searched by the security operatives in connection with the ongoing investigation into allegations of corruption leveled against him. We have a background report as to what transpired over the week with MAGU and the DSS. Please take a pleasure watching the report. From the investigation. How MAGU fell from grace as Buhari's favorite star to common pariah. Ibrahim Magu's suspension as acting chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, on Tuesday represents a shameful fall from grace for one of President Muhammadu Buhari's most trusted stalwarts. It is a sad end to a once blistering and promising career, an almost untouchable personality who was a symbol of Buhari's anti-corruption crusade with demigod status. The manner in which Magu's well-known alliance with the First Lady, Ms. Aisha Buhari, collapsed is a testament to how he flew too close to the sun and burned his wax and wings. That an appointee who was already in trouble with powers that be, including his supervisory minister, the Attorney General, would have a fallout with his only staunch backer in the inner sanctum of power, such as the First Lady, shows how much power had constipated MAGU, as source surmised. The Nigerian news gathered that when Attorney General Abubakar Malami recently accused MAGU of corruption, insubordination, and abuse of office, the handwriting was clear. The powerful police officer was running out of luck, and only a slice of good fortune could save him this time. Stemming from Malami's allegations, Buhari's much fancied anti-graft SAR was arrested on Monday morning by a police team outside his office in Abuja. He was driven to the presidential villa and then appeared before a panel of investigation that were investigating the allegations against him, and afterwards taken into custody by the police, where he was held overnight by the detectives. Mr. Magu led the anti-graft agency in an acting capacity since 2016, overseeing scores of high-profile corruption cases that have seen many politicians and businessmen convicted and sentenced to prison. Although he strongly denied any wrongdoing, it is clear that President Buhari didn't want to take any chances. Magu, though, courted controversies and often caught a divisive figure, while, to some, he was an incorruptible and courageous officer, others perceived him as a fraudulent, wicked, and egocentric maniac. As an assistant commissioner of police, Magu was a member of the Presidential Advisory Committee on Anti-Corruption. He was one of the early recruits into the EFCC by the pioneer chairman of the commission, Nuru Ribadu, and was later made the head of the Sensitive Economic Governance Unit, EGU, a unit in charge of investigations of senior public officials. As head of the EGU, Mr. Magu spearheaded the role of former Kwara State Governor and serving Senator Bukola Saraki in the collapse of Societe Generale Bank of Nigeria, and James Ibori, former governor of Delta State, who was convicted for money laundering in the United Kingdom. But trouble started for the police officer after the controversial removal of Mr. Ribadu as chairman of the commission in December 2007. The new chairman, Farida Waziri, was said to be uncomfortable with his presence, doubting his loyalty to her. In August 2008, Mr. Magu was accused of illegally keeping case files of top politicians being investigated by the commission. His house in Abuja was searched and his property carted away by operatives of the EFCC, acting under the directive of Mrs. Waziri. He was subsequently redeployed to the police after days of detention. Magu was later suspended, going without salaries for several months. Following his appointment as chairman of the EFCC in 2011, Mr. Larmode made the return of Mr. Magu to the EFCC a top priority. Both men had worked together at the commission when Mr. Larmode served as head of operations. In a letter written to the Inspector General of Police (IGP) on March 19, 2012, and titled Repostings, Transfer and Secondment of Police Officers to the EFCC, Larmode put Magu as top on the list of police officers he wanted to be deployed to the EFCC. Following the president's intervention, Mr. Magu was released to the EFCC. He remained a top official of the commission until he was appointed to succeed Larmode. Magu faced loads of hurdles along the way. The most surmounting, however, was the 8th Senate saddled with the power to confirm nominees by the president. In December 2016, his nomination as a substantive chairman was rejected over a damning report from the Department of State Services (DSS). Almost 3 months later, Magu was represented for confirmation and was yet again rejected. This was based on another report from the DSS, which maintained the same position that he would constitute a problem to the ongoing anti-corruption fight. We want to reiterate our earlier position that we stand by our report dated 3rd of October 2016. Everything in the earlier document stands part of the cover note of the new report read. Magu remained unscattered, still in for anything. The 58-year-old was assured of President Buhari's support and even that of Vice President Yemi Osibanjo. As acting president, Osibanjo threw his weight behind the police officer to disgust of some top shots. Mr. Chairman, 2 weeks ago, I discussed the EFCC and your appointment with President Muhammadu Buhari and he told me he has every confidence in you and every confidence in the commission and the work that you have been doing. And as long as he is president, you remain the chairman of the EFCC, he said. Then a long episode began with Malami. In August 2017, the Attorney General of the Federation accused MAGU of playing ignoble role that led to the suspension of the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit, NFIU, from the EGU Egmont Group. In a statement by his spokesperson, Malami alleged that MAGU had frustrated efforts geared towards making the NFIU independent of the EFCC as required by the Global Body of Financial Intelligence Unit. Malami was not the only minister that clashed with MAGU or queried his work at the EFCC. A former Minister of Finance, Kemi Adeosun, had queried MAGU on the figures the EFCC had been quoting in the media as monies recovered by it. In a February 9, 2018 letter, Adeosun wrote to MAGU, "This is to notify you of the records of cash assets recovery in the custody of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, from May 2015 to date, based on information available to the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation as attached. It has, however, come to the notice of the Ministry of Finance the use of recovery figures in media reports by the EFCC that do not reconcile with the records of the ministry. You are therefore kindly requested to clarify where these cash recoveries have been deposited and provide accompanying evidence." In what many say may have been the final onslaught against MAGU that led to the event of Monday, July 6, 2020, the Attorney General returned again. In a shocking report, he accused the 58-year-old of several infractions, 22 in number, emphatically recommending his sack to President Buhari, who had solidly insisted on MAGU's stay in office. The president was left with no choice as his own integrity was under question. His favorite Sir had to go. The manner MAGU was ousted from office throws up a glut of questions. However, what is quite clear is that the police officer had more foes than friends in his line of duty. Little wonder his subordinates had a feast of some sort after news of his suspension flitted in. This isn't much of a surprise, though MAGU never worked with operatives of the EFCC, but his own personal clique, and neither respected the standard operating procedure of the commission. His boys were more driven by what pleased MAGU rather than the evidence from the image. That was the report and more about MAGU's suspension that shall be coming your way today on Spectacle. You can also join the conversation via the numbers displayed on your screen and connect to our Zoom handle to make your opinion heard as regards this topic. But in the studio with me, like I said, is A.A. Mohammed Esquire. He is a constitutional lawyer and a political analyst. Welcome to Television Nigerian, sir.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Thank you, viewers.
Thank you. We again will actually, after his analysis, we have another story for you between the National Assembly and the Minister of State for Labor and Productivity, Festus KEYAMO, where the minister also fled off by saying the National Assembly wants to usurp his power or by passing to implement the 774,000 NDA job. We will come to that after we discuss little about MAGU. Esquire.
Thank you, sir.
This is on Spectacle again. Thanks for coming.
Thank
now,
you.
The MAGU suspension, did it come to you as a surprise or like a fiction?
Actually, I wouldn't say it's a surprise because this is a battle he has been trying to battle with or fight a very long months in the past. So, and definitely by the history of that office, it has always been like that from the beginning. Yes. That is the founder of the chairman of that office. None of the chairmen was able to end his tenure amicably without having an issue. And the moment any issue, it's only him that has been so lucky, because there was a time he was suspended, then he was reabsorbed. Okay. But in this time around, I doubt I wouldn't know he's gone. So until the result comes out from the panel, the investigating panel, they will be able to know whether he will come back or not.
Coming back, he's been suspended and replaced already. CIROMA is already there.
It's an acting capacity. Yeah, but CIROMA is an acting capacity.
But of course, MAGU acted for about how many years?
Yes, you know, I say he might be lucky.
You lawyers have a way of putting
he has been lucky all this one, so he might be lucky.
He might be lucky again.
Yes, might be lucky again.
Anyway, you heard that the DSS picked him up and detained him for 24 hours. At the same time that he has evicted his Maitama official house residence, and even the Karu residence, the DSS operative or security operatives also went there to search. What do you think they actually search? Is it the allegation of some alleged funds purported to have been proclaimed by MAGU and not, commiserating with the records they have at the Ministry of Finance?
But even if they go to the house is not the office. So whatever they might found there could not have any relevance to the allegation. The most important thing is office, because they might find personal document in his house. One. Number two, I do not think, because the DSS has came out to say, no, we never arrested him. We only invited him. And from few areas that have been stumbled upon that I read, the by himself too, from I think one of the media, the newspapers, it says no, it was 4CID at Area 10 where they took him to, and I think even yesterday that was where he reported back to. That was where he passed the light, not with the DSS. Okay. So I've not gotten any.
No, it was said that the DSS actually said that since he is under investigation, he would be allowed to go to his office or anywhere. He has to remain with them so that they will possibly search for what they alleged him about.
Yeah, just like you say, perhaps where you got your information is different from where I got mine.
Okay.
But I was, he said it, he pronounced it there. In fact, from the story I read in one of the papers, they wanted to keep him somewhere in the office. He said, no, put me in the cell where you put other people, because I'm a suspect. Okay. That was at 4CID in the Area 10. Okay. So I can, because the DSS said, no, we do not arrest him. We only invited him. But the area command, that is the police from 4CID, they have not come out to say, yes, we kept him. But in that newspaper, it was captured that it says, when they took me there around 10 something, they asked me to go and sleep in that office. He said, no, I'm not sleeping in that office.
That they should put him in the cell.
Put me in the cell.
Okay.
Yes. Handle me, treat me as
a suspect.
As I am presently. So that was the, as at yesterday, but I wouldn't know what is the other thing of it. But I think being a public officer, I think the easiest thing they would have done, the DSS should have done, is to write a letter to him, please come. Because from the story we had so far, is that he left his office in Wuse. He's going to the headquarters. Unfortunately, he was intercepted, and they said, though eventually they allow him to drive his own car, but then that was how they...
Okay, let's look at the allegations so far that that we got, that we are alleged to have against him, that he committed. Like, number one, they say he is alleged to be relooting of recovered loot and sale of seized assets to cronies, associates, and friends. Then number two, they said alleged favoritism towards selected EFCC investigators called the MAGU boys.
the juicy assignment. He assigned them the MAGU boys juicy assignment. Then insubordination to the office of the Attorney General of the Federation. Then alleged discrepancies in the reconciliation records of the EFCC and the Federal Ministry of Finance, which was what I said, like proclaiming some figures before the press, some financial figures or assets being seized across the world before the press to have been hiked. And then what the Ministry of Finance have as their record is quite minimal. So where does the rest of the money goes, or where are they? The alleged leakage of investigative reports that were prejudicial to some cases to some selected media. They're reporting some judges to their presiding officers without deferring to the AGF. Then alleged declaration of 539 billion as recovered funds instead of 504 billion earlier claimed. So on and so forth. Not respecting court order to unfreeze 7 billion judgment in favor of a former executive director of a bank. Late action on the investigation of P&ID leading to legal dispute. Not providing enough concrete evidence against some suspects, including Desiani Alice Maduike, for extradition. And so on and so on, about 22 count charges. But let's look at this aspect of not respecting court order to unfreeze certain money, not only the 7 billion. There are these quarters of persons complaining that even some human rights bodies and NGOs who were suspected to have gotten what we call laundering or laundered money. And when they get court cases from the court in favor of them for their fund to be released, MAGU will still sit on that fund, disrespecting the court order, and the Attorney General found that as insubordination. Is that what it is in your etiquette?
Thank you. You see, it will not sound well, and it will be very unhealthy if all these allegations,
22 of them,
allegations, they still remain an allegation.
Okay.
They still remain an allegation. We will not be fair to MAGU if we try to crucify him right from now. We should remember that this country, we're in a funny country.
Yeah.
Because maybe
where corruption fights you back.
Definitely.
From left, right, and center.
I am not saying I'm not holding brief for him anyway. But then, I doubt if all this allegation could suit him. I really doubt. But with the confidence and the caliber of the chairman of that committee, whom everybody respected in this country, Justice Hayo Salami. MAGU should go and sleep, if not because there could not be a mattress at the 4CID where they could keep him to be sleeping. But I want to assure him that there's going to be justice in that committee. That panel are going to do justice to him. Like I rightly say, they might bring him back. They might say, no, Mr. Man, you've tried your best. Please, let's try another person. But it will amount to injustice to him from now to begin to crucify this poor guy.
And the issue of the NFIU, the presidential directive or policy of a Nigerian financial institution, a financial intelligence unit to foresee local government funds, local government autonomy, checkmating money allocated to local government, that the NFIU should be their own separate entity, parallel from that of EFCC. Yes. It was alleged that MAGU was the one that blocked that that power from NFIU from becoming an entity of their own, just like it is done in foreign nations where such financial body oversees some financial investigations apart from the Economic and Financial Crime Commission.
Like I rightly say, you are right, because you see, I say this country is a foreign country. Nobody could say truly it is MAGU, because the office is still existing. The staff are still there existing. No any evidence so far to show that MAGU, you were the one who denied or refused.
Can somebody now be suspended? I'm sorry, sir.
Yes, sir.
Can somebody be suspended from his active office, even if it is on acting capacity, by just mere allegations?
No, because you could see that even that suspension comes from the presidency. Mr. President put him there. The information, that is why they always say this, there are some things that we outside will not just appreciate. But Mr. President, because of the information, the security information given to him, he will act. But to many people, the citizenry will not see reason in that until perhaps after whatever they were thinking to forestall non-eventual happen. Then people will say, no, there's reason in this. Because you could discover that if not I think we are developed, honestly, our democracy is developing.
Yes, okay.
In the past, you can never see that because this is the same party. What I mean by the same party, the same people in the same government fighting themselves. So meaning we are moving gradually.
Okay, that means the ruling party checkmating corruption within itself.
This allegation, because if the presidency now kept quiet, they say, no, maybe because Mr. President loves this man. No, Mr. Man, allegation from a very powerful office, the Attorney General of the Federation. Please go and answer, go and clear your name.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that if anybody comes tomorrow, they won't say no, because the same party has done to themselves.
So you cannot actually say that the action of Mr. President is biased based on parallel information gotten.
No, because in a very ideal society, it is MAGU himself that's supposed to say, no, please, I'm off.
Okay, I'm resigning.
Yes, pending when this investigation is concluded.
Because allegation has been leveled
against me. So please, I'm giving you a free hand. Go and do whatever we want to do with my office.
All right, thank you very much, A.A. Esquire Mohammed. Like we said, can we say congratulations to Bala CIROMA now as the new acting EFCC chairman?
Yeah, because any office, everybody will love it. Though we may not know whether, because it is an acting capacity, like you rightly say that MAGU has been under acting capacity
for years.
But because I think he's managing a dual office now.
Okay.
Except I wouldn't know whether another person has been replaced him as acting capacity as the commissioner of police of FCT.
Okay, the police commissioner of FCT.
Yes, because I don't think, because these two offices are very, very powerful.
Definitely, there must be a replacement before they
maybe the deputy could take over there.
Exactly.
Yes, we congratulate him. Okay. Congratulate him.
All right, like we said, congratulations, Bala CIROMA, the acting EFCC chairman, just appointed today, being the 8th day of July 2020. From TVN here, we say, perform your job well while in acting capacity. And we go to the second story straight ahead that we said there has been this tussle between the National Assembly and the Minister of Labor, Minister of State for Labor, let me say Barrister Festus KEYAMO, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. And then Festus has alleged that the National Assembly are trying to usurp his power or the presidential directive, or perhaps they are trying to bypass him from implementing the NDE 774,000 jobs. And we have this background report for you to watch, whether who has the right to implement these 774,000 jobs across the 774 local government of Nigeria. Please take a look at the reportage.
In another development, the Minister of State for Labor and Employment, Festus KEYAMO, has described the controversy surrounding the planned employment of 774,000 Nigerians as an attempt by the National Assembly to bypass him in the implementation of the project. He said this shortly after the Minister of Labor and Employment, Chris Ngige, apologized to the National Assembly Joint Committee on Labor following a clash between lawmakers and Mr. KEYAMO over the planned recruitment. 52 billion naira has been allocated for the Special Public Works Program in the 2020 budget. It is aimed at employing 774,000 citizens. 1,000 from each of the 774 local government areas in the country. Mr. KEYAMO accused the lawmakers of wanting to sabotage the recruitment process despite receiving 15% job slots. The National Directorate of Employment (NDE), according to the lawmakers, is meant to implement the recruitment under a special works program. They had accused Mr. KEYAMO of hijacking the program from the NDE. The minister hit back, saying they were the ones trying to take over the project. The committee later demanded that the program be suspended until the modalities for the exercise have been explained to the lawmakers. It also mandated its committees on labor and employment to invite Mr. Ngige and other relevant officials of the ministry to brief the joint committee on the modalities for the implementation of the program. Mr. Ngige appeared before members of the committee and the Senate President, Ahmed Lawan, at the National Assembly on Tuesday and tendered an apology. However, addressing journalists after the meeting, Mr. KEYAMO said the program cannot be implemented without his approval according to the NDE Act. First of all, may I say that this distinguished National Assembly, I believe that they are the lawmakers and they desire to comply strictly with the provisions of the law. Now, it is important that all of you read the National Directorate of Employment Act. You can see that the whole struggle today has been how to bypass me in the execution of this program. And I'm sure that you all saw that, he said. Now, with the provisions of the law, how they are going to do that, I don't know. I have to go back to my principal, which is the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, to give directives. By Section 3 of the NDA Act, I am the chairman of the board. The minister is the chairman of the board of the NDE. When you say go back and bring a plan, you are still coming back to me. Secondly, if you look at Section 15 of the NDE Act, it said the minister may give directives of a general nature to the NDE. In other words, you cannot have a work plan without coming back to the minister. He said, by virtue of his appointment as minister, the president gave a directive in October last year asking him to go and supervise generally the activity. I don't see how you will supervise an agency and they go ahead without approval. The buck must stop at the table. Beyond the general mandate the president gave, the president also specifically instructed me by memo in May this year for me to go and supervise the execution of this project. How can you supervise a project without your final approval? That approval lies on my table, he said. Section 16, subsection 1 of the NDE Act, by instruction of the President, and an interministerial committee has already been proposed, which we accepted, that the committee must drive the selection process. Section 16, subsection 1 said the minister shall constitute committees for the NDE. The Director General of the NDE has no such powers to constitute committees under the law, he explained. So when you say go back and bring a plan, are you asking the DG to go and break the law? Are you saying the DG should disobey the president? Are you saying the DG should disobey his immediate boss, which is his minister? I will go back to the president for directives. The directives as to execution of a project is not binding on me. The directives of the National Assembly are not binding on me. This is an issue that will go to the Attorney General at the end of the day for interpretation. Both ministers and other delegates are expected to appear before the committee on Monday to show their work plan as well as discuss ways forward.
Anyway, that was the report, background report about the tussle between the NASS and the Minister of State for Labor and Productivity, Festus KEYAMO. And we are here to ask and question ourselves who has the power of implementation or oversight or whatever we may call it. An Esquire and a constitutional lawyer is still in the studio and on spectacle, and he wishes to throw more light for us to understand these parallel strengths that are trying to never meet. Mr. Mohammed.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
You see, from the start, before even going to the provisions of the Constitution,
Yes.
I would like to say both parties, that is the National Assembly and the distinguished learned Sikh, KEYAMO,
Yes.
I think they do not play it maturely. They shouldn't have put it to that level because both were representing this country.
Yes.
And at the same time, though, being a lawyer, and because not only for him.
Okay.
But you see, there must be a reason why KEYAMO acted that way. You see, both has this right.
Well, is the right, which right comes first? The right of KEYAMO to implementing with the NDE, because he has to supervise the NDE.
Yes.
Or the right of the National Assembly, which is that of oversight.
Yes. You see,
So, which one should come first? Oversight or implementation?
you see, honestly speaking, because there are provisions that National Assembly as well has the right to monitor the ministries where KEYAMO comes from.
That is
as
monitoring implementation.
Very well.
But it has not been implemented.
Yes, because to them, they were thinking, before this thing could be implemented, we should know how.
Then what is the use of the minister?
And that is why the minister is saying no. You see, I'm representing Mr. President.
Yes.
I am an agent of Mr. President. And this is my assignment.
Exactly.
This is what I was given. For example, look at the Constitution of Nigeria, 1999 Constitution,
Yes.
as amended,
Yes.
Section 148, sub 1,
Okay.
permission that the president may, in his discretion, assign to the vice president or any minister.
Or any minister.
Any minister of the government.
In his discretion.
President discretion. Exactly what happened here. Because determining the general election of, the Mr. President
Yes.
to direct either the vice president or any
minister
handle this,
handle this.
which the learned Sikh
Yes.
was given, and that is why KEYAMO was saying no. This is my. In fact, even yesterday when I was looking at the television,
Yes.
when the minister was apologizing to the National Assembly, he was not happy. He was not comfortable with what the minister was doing.
Because he is not a lawyer.
Perhaps.
He's in Gige a lawyer.
Yeah. No.
I don't think he's a lawyer. But
And that is
Festus
why-
is a lawyer.
Very well, and that was when
They
he came
call you
out.
people legal luminaries, isn't it? And that means you are the light of the Constitution.
You see, and that was why when he came out,
Yeah.
I trust him. He said, no, I must talk. And the press, because that's what the press wants to hear. They moved to him. They did not go to the minister. They moved to him because that is where he said, yes.
Of course.
And he tried to address it. And I think, honestly speaking, my view, this should be handled maturely.
No, let's follow. States are governed by laws.
Very well.
If
Very
laws become flawless,
Yes.
there will be, the state will become ungovernable. And misdirections of jurisdictions will begin to come to play.
Very
So
well.
if we say they must be mature by what etiquette?
That is beautiful.
Because the law is there.
Matured as in the role of the National Assembly. The role
Of the minister.
because you see, if that maturity is not played, then maybe this issue might end up in court for interpretation.
Because the first was already saying that
Is
the
going-
AGF perhaps may interpret
Come to
this
interpret,
for them.
you see?
Because I if I may ask you, like I asked you, which one comes first, the implementation or that of the oversight of the National Assembly? Does the National Assembly have another right of first implementing or directing who is to implement the order of Mr. President?
No, because Mr. President directed the learned sec. So the learned sec has the word power. You get it now?
Yeah.
But the National Assembly were saying, yes, agreed. Power was given to you. But that power could be checked by us as well. So, and perhaps, because many of them were not lawyers at the National Assembly, and perhaps maybe they were not properly briefed by the legal department of the National Assembly to tell them, look, this is your limit. This is how it ought to be done. Yes, because being the minister he automatically becomes the chairman of NDP. And his fear, like I continue to say, it was in this country. They gave out job in NNPC, CBN, Federal and Lateral. Tell me juicy, the so-called juicy
agencies and ministries.
You can, if we take the record, hardly you get the son of a poor person.
Exactly.
And that is the fear.
That is the fear of every
That is
Nigerian.
the fear.
As it is now, Nigerians will begin to suspect the National Assembly members of plotting to take what ordinarily should come to them.
Yes.
Or maybe to their cronies.
That is beautiful.
Because right now, I as a person, I won't perhaps say I am biased, but my objective mind is telling me that after 15% of that job slot were given to the National Assembly members, ordinarily they should leave the 600 and something thousand for the common people. Wherever or however the minister wants to implement this job across the strata of the 774 local government areas in the country, they can later oversight it.
Not only even them, the Nigerians will see it.
Nigerians
just
will
this
see
way
it.
that Nigerian was accounting that, look, jobs here, here and here. You didn't give to the poor people.
You understand why creating unnecessary tussles between... Now, this can lead to a power interpretation between the executive and the legislature.
Of course, before you know it, you see placard everywhere.
You understand? So, what would you advise Mr. President to do in this regard?
And you see...
To follow the law or to dance to the tune of the National Assembly?
No, he can't, because everybody knows Mr. President. And that is why some people are saying he doesn't listen, he doesn't hear, he doesn't know. He doesn't do things like that. Mr. President will be so patient and listen and know and exactly the example you gave to me now, or what the issue we earlier discussed. Because in some other government, I know the opposition might be, some people might be happy that yes, it is happening now in the party. Mr. President will not talk, because in other places, Mr. President will say, no, you don't question that guy. I appointed him. I recommended him, despite the fact that the National Assembly refused to confirm him. But this time around, I know Mr. President will come up, and because KEYAMO has said it, that I will go back to my principal. I will report back to him.
Exactly.
And I'm very much sure Mr. President will follow the law. What does the law say? I'm sure that is what Mr. President will follow.
Anyway, in case you want to make any contribution, I think the phone lines will just use this 5 minutes to take your 3 minutes to take your calls, or you can hook up with us on our Zoom network. I don't know whether the Zoom handle has been displayed, but while we wait for your calls, the Esquire will still be responding to some questions. Like I want to ask you on behalf of the people.
All right.
This, could I say, 52 billion naira was budgeted for these 774,000 jobs, 1,000 per local government.
Very well.
What do you actually think that the National Assembly wants to do with that job?
But I know, because it is not food and not drink that they could consume on their own. Basically, they had wanted, perhaps, so that we shouldn't preempt them. They've never said, this is what we want, this is what we want to do. But I know, since they are representative of their local areas, definitely, and I doubt it if they could give 2 jobs to 1 person. I doubt it. Definitely, they will still want to serve their community, their local area where they represent.
Have you heard about job padding or ghost workers?
Very well. We always hear it.
So,
States.
will a minister, between a minister and a National Assembly, who should distribute job explicitly, especially talking about a minister, of labor,
we don't have to argue that.
Employment and productivity.
We don't have to argue that.
We don't have to argue that. So it is a minister's duty. So Mr. President should just do the right thing. Call the National Assembly to order. And then allow Mr. KEYAMO to face his diligent job.
Very soon we'll understand that that is the position Mr. President will take.
All right, thanks for coming to Spectacle, Mr. A.A. Mohammed Esquire, constitutional lawyer, who have happened to be with us again in the studio of Television Nigerian.
I appreciate it, sir.
I hope when I call you again, we'll have the pleasure.
Very much ready, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And this is where Spectacle will stop today on Television Nigerian. And you can do well to follow us on our social media platforms. And if you want to read more about the news we have just dished out for you, check in the Nigerian news tabloid. Online, they are all there, and our tabloid also are there. So, but when you Google the Nigerian news, you will have much detail of what we have just given to you. Thanks for watching, and I have been Daniel Atai. Welcome to Spectacle on Television Nigeria. I am your host, Daniel Atai.